There are 8 men's weight divisions in the UFC. At 125 pounds, there's the flyweight division. At 135, we have the bantamweight division. At 145, the featherweight division. And at 155 pounds, the lightweight division. So far, each weight class has been separated by 10-pound increments. At 170 pounds, we jump all the way up to welterweight, and at 185, we have middleweight. We then see a 20-pound jump to 205 for the light heavyweight division, and finally at 265, the heavyweight division. Whenever discussing adding new weight classes, both fans and fighters suggest the following: maintaining the flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, and lightweight divisions at their current weight categories, promoting welterweight to 175, and introducing a super lightweight division at 165. Middleweight will stay at 185, a super middleweight class at 195, and at 205 light heavyweight. With a scheme like this, it's not hard to imagine heavier lightweights and lighter welterweights taking advantage of the super lightweight division. However, things might begin to look scarce at the super middleweight and middleweight divisions after introducing a new weight category there. The heavyweight division produces many great names, but currently only has 46 fighters competing in it. The light heavyweight division only fares slightly better with 51 fighters in it. The middleweight division has 65 competitors. A super middleweight category would be unsuccessful as there are fewer fighters in the light heavyweight and middleweight divisions. When you split the UFC into 10-pound increments, you do so making the assumption that athletes fall neatly into each category, when we know the size of adult men is more of a bell curve. In reality, we expect athletes to look more like this. If, say, the average weight of an athlete before weight cutting is 175 pounds, we can expect the majority of people to be around this weight. As you start to move to the heavier or lighter sides of the curve, you can expect to see fewer athletes competing here. This is probably one of the reasons why the lightweight and welterweight divisions are considered to be the most competitive in the sport. So instead of chopping up the UFC into even slices, why not consider dividing the UFC into weight categories based on the bell curve? It would end up looking a bit more like this. At this point, I should state that this is more of a thought experiment than anything else. The UFC has been slow to adopt change. They have not been eager to deal with problems like the gloves or extreme weight cutting. But I did think it would be fun to envision more UFC weight classes that have a better shot at being competitive. When looking at the spread of weights in the UFC, we have two issues. The first being weight cutting. It is fair to say that the majority of fighters cut weight, and that there is a lot of variability in each fighter. There is no data showing how much fighters weigh when they step into the octagon. They could be cutting as much as 5.2%, and in some cases more. So with no real data on their weight during the fight, we have to make some assumptions using their heights, which we do have and doesn't change as a result of the weight cut. Initially, I thought about applying a factor to this height and assuming that the fighters are all some multiple of their height. But MMA is a sport where we see a range of body types. Unlike volleyball or basketball, where height is seen as a huge advantage, or football, where certain positions call for different roles and therefore different body types, in MMA we've seen skinny guys do well against muscular guys, we've seen fat guys beat up skyscrapers, and we've had sprinters fight marathon runners. So I figured the best way to get a feel for the spread of MMA weight classes was to look at the weights of Olympic athletes. So by analyzing Olympians from 2012, I was able to adjust the data by filtering out sports where the mean height is a standard deviation above the average UFC fighter. I then had to filter out weight class sports which themselves have the same problem. With our proxy for UFC weight data, we can chop up the divisions based on the population in each category. The ideal is to have plenty of weight classes so as to discourage weight cutting and deal with the non-linear distributed nature of human weight. We get some interesting results. With 9 weight classes, the new heavyweight category would be 211 pounds, light heavyweight would be at 194, middleweight at 183, welterweight at 176, super lightweight would be at 166, lightweight would be at 161, featherweight would be at 154, bantamweight would be at 143, and again, flyweight would stay at 125. One thing that surprised me about the proxy data for UFC weights was how low the heavyweight limit ended up being. I would assume this points to the average Olympian at that height being a lot leaner than the average UFC fighter. The reason I chose to look at Olympic data as opposed to a specific sport like hockey or football was because I didn't want to bias myself in terms of a single body type. But the point of this isn't the actual numbers, but rather setting up weight classes in a non-linear fashion. If we assume that all the athletes will compete in the weight category immediately below their weight at competition, we can have more divisions with enough fighters in each division to make it competitive.